Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told I had a voice for radio, so today I'm showing you Po Town. Not that Po, this Po. It is the place where Team Skullgrunt are based in the Pokémon video game in Sun and Moon, so of course it's a disruptive card. Although, to be fair, you're probably going to be using it more to damage your own Pokemon than your opponent's. I suppose I should probably tell you what it actually does. What it does is when you play a card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you put 3 damage counters on that Pokemon. So think of it like Team Magma's secret base, but instead of doing it to basics when you bench them, it's to evolve Pokemon when you evolve them. Now, one thing I need to mention straight off the bat here, it's when you play it from your hand to evolve. So if you would choose something like a Wally or like a Diancie, link to that video in the description, to evolve one of your Pokemon, you're not playing it from your hand, this wouldn't work. There we go. Now, Team Magma's secret base saw play primarily for 2 reasons. In Gyarados decks, they would use it to get the damage counters on Magikarp to feed Gyarados' attack. And in Drampa decks, you would use it to damage one of your bench Pokemon to activate the extra damage in Drampa's Berserk attack. Nobody really used Team Magma's secret base, at least not at a high competitive level, to damage their opponent's Pokemon. And the reason is, your opponent can just replace the stadium. It's a nice ancillary benefit. Every so often your opponent will be caught and damaged by this, but it's not always going to happen. It's the reason why Altar of the Moon is good and Altar of the Sun isn't good. Altar of the Moon, you get to put it down and then get the benefit to retreat. Altar of the Sun, you put it down, it removes your weakness, and you hope your opponent doesn't replace the stadium, because if they do replace the stadium, you get your weakness back before your opponent attacks, and that's a big problem. So, putting 3 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon when they evolve is nice, but it's an ancillary benefit, it's not the main reason to be using this particular card. So why are we going to use this card? Well, we got a couple of options. And the main one here is Drampa's Berserk attack. Let's face it, you're still going to need a damaged Pokemon on the bench if you're playing Drampa. So why not use this? We're expecting Team Magma's secret base to rotate out at the end of this season anyway, which will be just a couple days after the World Championships when this card becomes legal. So, if we're expecting Team Magma's secret base to rotate, Po Town comes in as an immediate replacement. And it's quite nice that Team Magma's just getting away and we're replacing them with Team Skull. Some nice poetry there. And let's face it, this is going to be better than playing Rainbow Energy, because if you're having to attach a Rainbow Energy to a bench Pokemon to damage them to activate Berserk, then it means you're not able to also attach an energy to your Drampa to attack. That's a bad thing. Now, we've got cards like Tauros and Reshiram in the past. These are basics. But they've got what I like to call outrage style attacks. The more damage counters are on them, the more damage you do. If we get any evolved Pokemon with an attack like that, that's quite nice because it means that you can use this in order to fuel that attack. Po Town comes in handy. And we've got Gengar from Evolutions. Gengar from Evolutions has got a really nice attack, which just gives you an instant KO. Well, an instant KO if your opponent's Pokemon has 3 or more damage counters on it. Well, the good news is that if your opponent evolves their Pokemon while Po Town is on the field, your opponent's Pokemon will have 3 damage counters on. That's really nice. But again, it runs into the same issue as before, that your opponent can just replace the stadium and then they can evolve without taking the damage counters. Which is to say, like I said before, you should appreciate the ancillary benefit of these damage counters, but you shouldn't rely on them. This is an extra way to get damage on if you're playing a Gengar deck, because there's no real stadium you need to play with Gengar. But it is not the primary way to get damage on if you're playing Gengar. Otherwise, your opponent replaces a stadium and your entire game plan is out the windows. I'll give you one more example of a use that can be made of Potown, of course, and that is coming into play ability. So if we take something like Salazzle, for instance, you evolve up and your opponent's active Pokemon is both burned and poisoned. Now, we are getting the new supporter card in Burning Shadows, Acerola, that allows you to pick up any one of your Pokemon as long as it's damaged. That's really quite nice, but they've got to be damaged in order to reuse it. So if you're playing a deck with Salazzle in, then all you need to do is play Potown and Acerola, and you can reuse it as much as you like. Of course, Potown will always activate Acerola. The problem is, if you're using Acerola primarily for healing, do you really want to have to put 3 damage counters on so that you can heal in the future? Probably not. But these abilities you get when you evolve, you know what? Potown is the thing that allows you to use Acerola to use them over and over again. Now, one interesting thing here is that in Burning Shadows we're seeing a lot of love for evolutions. We've got Ho-Oh-GX that allows you to break the rules of evolution, Muscle Dumbbells that gives your stage 1s extra HP, Diancie that allows you to evolve up much more easily. And then there's Hertz evolutions. So, although Pokemon seem to be going pro-evolutions, it's not entirely the way they're going. So I think it's fair to give Potown 3 Wassies. It's a bit of a shame, because it could have been so much better, but the reality is, it's just way too easy for your opponent to play around. But we've still got things like Drampa and Acerola, and for that reason it's gonna see a bit of play. I'm just not convinced it's gonna see all that much. Now, if you've got any other uses for Potown, I'd love to hear them. That's why there's a comment section. Go nuts, be nice. Make sure you've liked this video, make sure you've subscribed to this channel, follow me on Twitter @TheWassie, and the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.